hinge is used in exercises like the deadlift, the kettlebell swing, and good mornings. The difference between the hip hinge and a squat is that in a squat, your hips and your knees flex at similar degrees, whereas in a hip hinge, there's far less flexion on the knee. So in exercise to practice the hip hinge, you can take a dowel, which is just a fancy term for a sweep and brush handle, and we're going to use the natural hollow here of the lumbar to hold the dowel against the spine. For the purpose of this drill, we can just keep our feet hip width apart and our big toes pointing forward. So we hold the dowel, making contact with the back of our hips, our thoracic, and our head. Okay? And what we're going to do is the hinge, think of you're just pushing your bum back as if you're sitting back on a chair and bowing forward. So in this position, you can see my shoulders are still higher than my hips are higher than my knees, my shins stay almost vertical, and what I do feel is I feel a stretch here in the hamstring. So this here is the hip hinge. So if you imagine the bottom of a kettlebell swing or a deadlift, this is the position you're going to be in. I'm not flexing at the ankles, so my knees aren't going forward, as if I'm starting to go down into a squat. So if your knees are going out over your toes, or you feel your hips are dropping down in line or below your knees, that's because you're going into a squat. So a good cue is to feel the stretch in the hamstrings. So we use the stick, we're going to keep the spine neutral. We bow forward, pushing the hips back, shins stay almost vertical, and I can feel the stretch here in the hamstrings. And we can just practice that movement using the stick along the spine for a cue. And then when you get comfortable, you can practice without the stick. You'll find that most of your weight is going to be shifting back onto the heels as you go back.